What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Before I get into this video, I want to remind you guys, if you're watching, you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification button, hit the notification button. If you like or appreciate the content of this channel, uh, please hit that like button. If you want to contribute to Too Raw, show love for Too Raw, you can do so in the links. If you want to show support for Too Raw on the Patreon, you can do so in the Patreon. I have almost 50 videos up already. I talk about stuff on the Patreon I can't talk about on YouTube. So you want to support Too Raw for TV, that way you can. All right, we'll give a shout out to Ticket TV for he did a video just now talking about this. I'm going to do mine. Gordon Hayward, man. Look, man, we've been kind of hard on him. Last year, I kind of thought, look, you got injured at the time, what I'm saying, well over a year ago. He was playing pretty poorly last year, man. Playing poorly on defense, was very inconsistent on offense. More often than not, he was busting last year. You know what I'm saying? And I thought the media wasn't really putting it out there like that. He got a pass for whatever reason. You interpret that, all right? But I give credit when credit's due. Gordon Hayward, y'all saw the community message I put like just several days ago. I said Gordon Hayward was balling. I think he was coming into this game averaging over 20 points, shooting well over 50% from the field. You know what I'm saying? I remember it was a big victory they had a couple of days ago. He had season high 39 points. I thought Gordon Hayward was on his way to getting to that Utah Jazz level player that we saw coming into his signing with the Boston Celtics. But big setback for him and the Boston Celtics, who, despite coming away with the 135-115 victory over the San Antonio Spurs tonight, that victory came with a heavy, heavy price tag. And that's going to be Gordon Hayward, who's going to be out for some time. I'm reading from an article right now. I'm going to read from this article. I'll put a link in the description box to this article. Reading from, it says Coach Brad Stevens gives update about Hayward's fractured hand. It says late in the second quarter of the C's 135-115 win over the Spurs at AT&T Center, star forward Gordon Hayward collided with LaMarcus Aldridge and went to the locker room. Just after halftime, the team announced that Hayward had a fractured left hand. Hayward, who was spotted wearing a cast in the locker room following the game, reportedly must wait until he sees a specialist Monday to determine just how long he'll be out. Brad Stevens was asked after the game about the injury, and he said, broken hand, no timeline, going to get with the doctors tomorrow and decide if he needs to do surgery or not. Sounds like he should decide to get surgery. The surgery option might actually be a better timeline, so we'll see what it all plays out to be. Who knows? It's too bad. This one doesn't feel nearly as bad as it did 2 years ago, so he'll be back. He'll be off a few weeks or a month or whatever it is. I just told him to keep his head up. I think at the end of the day, that's all he can do. He works hard. He'll be in good shape. He'll keep himself in good shape, and he'll be ready to go when he gets back. But now he needs to help encourage some of our wings off the bench. They need to be ready to be called upon to add value to winning every night. The article goes on to say, after a bumpy couple of years, Hayward finally was rounding into form this season. He entered tonight's game averaging 20.3 points, about 8 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. He had 9 points and 2 rebounds going into the second quarter, so he was going to have a game probably like with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists. You know what I'm saying? Um, big setback for him personally, man. We all know the opening night with him. I think it was the 2017-18 season when he broke his ankle. Terrible, gruesome to look at. His ankle was turned unnaturally, and he missed the entire 2017-18 season. And he came back last year. I know people get injured and recover at different rates. Uh, Paul George was able to come back to form a little faster than Gordon Hayward. I thought toward the end of the season, maybe my criticism was too harsh. Maybe, he was still struggling psychologically from certain things. But he appeared to be totally all the way back this season, and to now have this injury strike him will be a huge blow. So other guys got to step up for the Boston Celtics. Um, it just has to be really disheartening for him. Hate to see anybody get injured. And I saw someone write this in tickets comment section. Man, it does seem like a lot of these guys are getting more injured than ever, which seems to be, you would think in a league, right, that not only took out the physicality of the game because of what happened in the Malice at the Palace and trying to make it a more quote unquote fan friendly game, but also you're trying to make basketball less physical because you're trying to cut down on injuries. But yet it seems like guys are getting injured more than ever. So what was the benefit of taking the physical aspect of the game out? You know, I mean, I do notice that a lot of these guys. This is just an observation. Okay, doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm wrong either. But I think part of it could be because these guys are not used to playing physical. They're not used to playing a physical brand of basketball. So they're not used to protecting themselves in a certain way or bracing themselves in a certain way when they get impact. Maybe the older guys, the older generation, since they were used to that, they knew how to brace themselves properly. And maybe some of these guys, like with these hand injuries, they're falling in certain ways and they're not used to, uh, you know, being in those situations, you know, being hit or falling into a pile or you know, uh, colliding with other people. They're not used to certain things. So they're putting their bodies and body parts in certain ways so that it leaves them vulnerable to injuries. That's just a theory I have because a lot of these injuries that these guys are suffering, not to say you didn't see them before, but you see them more frequently. That plus the fact that I have my suspicions about what some of these guys are doing in their uh, recreational time. Like I think a lot of these guys are doing some stuff that could be causing some problems with their body, some harm to their bodies in certain ways. I'm not accusing anyone of using PEDs or anything like that, but we all know that those things can have detrimental effects on your bones and they can have detrimental effects on your muscles. Uh, you know, so I'm like I said, I'm just putting that out there. Not saying that he is doing that. Plus, these guys are a little heavier than they used to be. The average height of these players are pretty much the same. If anything, they've shrunk a little bit. Like the guys in the 60s are actually taller on average than the guys now, but they're a lot heavier now. Like I think the average player back in the 1960s was probably like 190 pounds, and today they're like 220 pounds. So you're talking about guys who are on average 25 to 30 pounds heavier than they used to be 50 years ago. So yeah, you would think with that much more weight on you, not necessarily that they're fat, but they're carrying more weight. Yeah, you're seeing injuries in guys now at age 26, 25 that you would see back then with guys who were 31, 32, 33. Their bodies would start breaking down then, as opposed to now, these guys are starting to break down too young. I mean, look what we're already seeing with Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson is 19 years old, and he's already showing signs that he's carrying too much body weight. There was no such thing, if I'm not mistaken, outside of Wilt Chamberlain, a player weighing 280 pounds in the NBA back in 1960. Matter of fact, I think Wilt wasn't even 280. I think he was 270. I think he might have still been 275 in 1960. So, yeah, there's different factors involved, man. These guys are getting injured way too frequently. Just way too many injuries, man. Like I said, in particular, when you consider that a lot of these guys are not slashers. There's not a lot of contact like in the old days. These guys aren't getting horse collared or knocked down, or what I'm saying. It's not the same type of physical game. These guys are jump shooters, all right, and there's always going to be some physical aspect of basketball, but you know the way these guys are getting injured now, it's something's wrong. I remember reading an old school player who says that he thinks that the type of uh, training that these guys are going through now, like a lot of this new age cross training, is counterproductive to being a basketball player. He thinks that some of the training these guys are going through now is contributing to some of these injuries, and maybe that person has a point. I forgot who it was, but some older NBA player said that. He might have a point with this, man. But anyway, hope that Gordon Hayward's able to come back this season. I hope he's not out as long as, say, Stephen Curry is going to be out, because unlike the Warriors, the Celtics, are actually in a playoff contending team, and they would need Gordon Hayward's services to have any chance of making any type of run in the playoffs. But tell me what you guys think.